Okay, we're live. So, welcome to today's show of Unveiling Nightmares. Today, we're talking about the hot February releases that are coming out for the horrors, and we've got some amazing authors with us. So, if we go from the top first, Ashley, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's Ashley. The book that I've got coming out this month is hashtag Dead End Tours Hurting Fields.
Fantastic. Wesley?
Hi, I'm Wesley Smith. My book is Some Kind of Truth. It comes out tomorrow.
Zachariah?
Yeah, hey, my name is Zachariah Chamberlin. My book is going to be released next Tuesday. It's called the second edition, actually, of We Come Bearing Curses.
Fantastic. And Dave?
I am Dave McCluskey from Liverpool, and my book came out in 2018. I've only just caught up, so I'm re-releasing it. It's called Krach. And that was all the spittle coming out of my mouth there, all over my skin. Krach. Zach got me krach.
And he's off. And Dan?
My name's Dan Franklin. My book is called These Things Linger, and it came out today.
Okay, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your book, Ashley. I'll just get your cover so people can see what we've got. Right, where is your... I had it a minute ago. Got it.
This is Dead End Tours Hurting Fields. This is the second book in the Dead End Tours series. And what's happening is we've got a group of characters who go doing urban exploration. In the first one, which was St. Ralph's Hospital, they went around there exploring an abandoned hospital. In this one, they're going around exploring an abandoned airfield. And there's a couple of stories going on that they're sort of like guided urbex tours. So the hosts take people around and they're looking at the fact that there were rumours that there was a zombie outbreak on this particular airfield site a few years back. And we keep dipping back and finding out what actually happened with that zombie outbreak. So there's zombies. There's a creature that's called the Slayer in there as well that was sort of like built by naughty military experimental people, but it's only called the Slayer because the person who they actually used to start it off with looked a little bit like Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Fantastic. And
sorry.
What was the first book about? So people can obviously go and find that one if they want to.
The first one was about it was about a hospital that Jack the Ripper might have moved on to after he'd finished working in London. He might have sort of like moved on to there. And also, if people visit my website, if they're interested in it, I've got a short story that actually introduces these characters to people where they're looking at the potential for using a lighthouse as one of their urban exploration sites.
Brilliant.
Absolutely free.
Fantastic. And where can obviously people find your book, your website, and stuff like that?
Amazon for the Dead End Tours 1 and 2, but if you're looking for the free one, in that case, ashleylister.com, and then just go to the short story part.
Fantastic. So we'll come off that one.
But also, that's really at the end of the month, and then there's sort of like all these other guys who've written brilliant stuff to keep you entertained until that happens.
Ash, did you say that that's Jack the Ripper themed? Then
Yes.
That book there, the Dead End Tours one that you just had up, that's Jack the Ripper
first
themed.
one.
No, the first one, the one before that, St. Ralph's
one
Hospital. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd been doing a little bit of research on Jack the Ripper and just thought, he's an interesting bloke, isn't he? Yeah. If he was a bloke, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. If he was a bloke.
Yeah.
I love all the Jack the Ripper mythos, everything that goes with that. Just really, really interests me.
It's like one of those things, isn't it, that nobody actually knows the ending to?
Well, no one will ever know because there's too much money in it. So as soon as someone gets an idea of who it'll be, who it was, then someone will instantly debunk it because there's a massive industry. There's huge film, television shows, people going on tours, books. What did you do for your background there, like Ash? Did you go up to London and do the Jack the Ripper tours and stuff?
No, I'd read through about 3 or 4 books. There's Patricia Cornwell's one where she's sort of like suggesting it's the artist whose name's gone out of my head.
He wasn't even in the country at the time of after murders.
There's a brilliant one called They All Love Jack, which suggests that it was a musical singer who was also a mason, and that the reason why they didn't catch him was because the police didn't want to sort of like do a fella mason in. And it was kind of compelling, that one. The only criticism I got against the book was that the guy who was writing it was a touch on the homophobic side. So where he's sort of like talking about people who are part of the gay community, I think in one part he either referred to them as benders or shirt lifters. And I just thought, this is really knocking down the research.
Yeah.
Was it written a while ago, that one, though? Or was it a recent one?
The last 5 or 6 years.
Oh, really? And he's got away with with that.
Yeah. I will DM you what the title is. I don't want to say it on here because it would sound like I'm slagging the guy off. And whilst I'm slagging the guy off, I don't want people to
yeah. Brian Smith. I don't know if it is Brian Smith, by the way. I just made that name up. Yeah. No, I love all that. I'm a massive fan of the Jack the Ripper, all Jack the anything to do with Jack the Ripper, and all the stuff about H.H. Holmes as well, and the similarities between the two murders.
Well, I find it interesting because like the Jack the Ripper mythos, as you said, it kind of gave birth to like the slasher, right? I mean, the slasher flicks, the fascination with all these serial killers, and he's, I think, literally the only one who hasn't been caught.
Yeah.
And
as I say, there's a lot of people who think that they know who he is.
Zodiac hasn't been caught though either.
Oh yeah, that's true.
No, yeah.
Zodiac is still out there.
The Zodiac keeps taunting people with sort of like, "Oh, here's another one of these little cryptic clues and puzzles, and catch me if you can."
Wasn't the Zodiac? I mean, the film of the Zodiac that put it through to the guy who was the engineer, didn't it? But he died before they had a chance.
Yeah.
That's another interesting one, but it doesn't get as highlighted as much as Jack the Ripper, probably because Jack the Ripper is probably the very first serial killer, isn't he? Really, when you think about it.
Yeah, I think he is the first. I think he's considered the first serial killer that we know in modern times.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be all controversial and say, well, isn't God the first serial killer? But we're not going to do that, are we? Because this is Crystal's show, and I'm not going to fuck it up with something as contentious as that. Yeah. So I'll shut up, Crystal. I'm sorry.
Let's not open a can of worms, Ash. Yeah.
Okay, Wesley, let's get yours up on the screen. Do you want to tell us about your book?
Sure. Some Kind of Truth is about a crime reporter who is delivered this package at his front door of his apartment. Inside the package is a USB drive and a driver's license. On the USB drive is the torture of a teenage girl. What he has to do is figure out why this girl is on this flash drive, or this video, I'm sorry, why this video is on the flash drive, and why it was delivered to him to uncover this mystery. And his background is he really relates to what's happened to this girl, because he himself has been tortured in a cave in Afghanistan because he was a former what's the word I'm looking for? Military, or not military, army reporter. I can't think what the term I'm using. Yeah. So he actually was captured and tortured in front of by the Taliban and recorded himself. So when he gets the video, it just sets him in motion. He has his own problems that he's dealing with as he's trying to uncover this mystery. He's a habitual smoker and a drinker, and he has all these demons that are just dragging him down as he's trying to uncover the truth.
Fantastic. Sorry about the audio. I'm not sure what's going on there. There's a bit of a crackling noise. So I do apologize. Now, tell us about, I know you've had some problems with this one on Amazon because you're something to do with your pre-orders. So where can people find this book tomorrow?
You can actually go onto Amazon tomorrow and order it, digital or paperback. Either one.
You got all them issues sorted then, yeah?
Yeah, most of them, I think.
Yeah.
So
it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wes, is this a horror or is it a thriller?
It's a thriller, yeah.
It's a thriller, yeah.
Crystal's been very gracious with me coming on and sharing my thriller stuff with all you horror people.
I love a really good thriller. I mean, I absolutely adore it. I like, people say that, because I write a little bit of splatterpunk and stuff like that, and everybody thinks that I love splatterpunk and extreme, but actually my favorites are the mainstream horror or thrillers. So this sounds right up my tree. This.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a huge thriller fan. Any kind, really. I eat those up. So I read them constantly, and yeah, I love thrillers. Well, it's police procedural, a domestic thriller, romance thriller. I don't care. I'll read them all. I eat them up. They're my favorite kind of movies and everything.
What did you do for your research on this one? Did you, did I take it this is like a military police procedural one?
It's more of a police procedural than military. There's very little military in there, but it's only more of when Steve is reminiscing. That's the main character's name, Steve James. My research was basically, I just had to figure out mostly a lot of timelines on when, for a certain section in the book, when things actually happened during the first invasion of Afghanistan. And trying to learn a lot of the newspaper industry was kind of tough. Because it's not, that kind of information isn't readily available. Though I will say I had a lot of help reading Michael Connolly. He was probably the one who was most influential to my writing. So I read a lot of his work, and that was like really how I kind of got into the inside of a newspaper by reading his 3 Jack McAvoy books, especially.
Happy days.
We've got a couple of comments in the chat. We've got a Betsy Hunt Reba. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. She says, I'm looking forward to reading Wesley's first book.
Thank you.
We also have another comment from the Bleeding Keyboard. Me too. It sounds awesome.
That was me, the Bleeding Keyboard.
Sorry?
Yeah, that was me, the Bleeding Keyboard. And yeah, Wesley, that really does sound like it's going to be a fun one. And you were mentioning that it's more thriller than horror, but I honestly don't see that great a distinction between the two areas. I mean, there's some parts in a horror book where in a thriller book where that was so horrific and horrifying. Yeah, it's difficult to find the distinction between those two.
I think it's a lot with the pace of how it's written. Like when I sat down to write Some Kind of Truth, it was like, for me, when I was thinking about it, it had to have a pulse. It had to keep going, boom, 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 to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next, and I couldn't let up on that beat. So that's how I approached writing a thriller. And while there's horrific things in the book, which there's horrific things in real life, I look at it more as a thriller, police procedural, if you will, than what I do a horror.
Well, that's kind of the definition, though, isn't it, of horror? It's got to be something that's horrifying.
Yeah. There's a lot of overstepping the lines, isn't there, between the two? It's
Yeah.
One person's thriller is another person's horror, isn't it? Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless it's about a big monster that lives under beds, massive, huge teeth. You don't tend to get a lot of them in the thrillers. But
I don't know.
yeah,
You
might do. Yeah.
some
Especially if
people
anyone
might
see my
class as
ex-wife.
paranormal romance.
Well, let's not go into that one.
Okay, so you said that was available on Amazon and it comes out tomorrow.
Correct. Yes.
Fantastic.
Guys, I'm going to put myself on mute for a moment, just because there's this microphone thing going on in the background, whilst other people are talking, just in case it's me that's causing any foobar there.
Okay, so Zachariah,
Yeah.
I'll just get yours up.
First of all, I'm super ecstatic about this cover. I was just very lucky to come across it. So we come bearing curses. I assume across the pond, you guys have heard of our TV show Supernatural.
Yeah.
Huge
Yep,
fans.
yep.
Yeah. So this book is a combination of taking the Winchester brothers, adding in some very strong female characters, brought it into the Midwest of America, and put them in a situation where they have to, battle cosmic horror that are being summoned by an evil cult, a psychotic evil family, in fact. This book is really comes from a lot of my experiences. I used to be a paramedic and a firefighter before I wrote the book, and just taking all those things I've seen and had to deal with, really got to help me pour life into these characters. So yes, these two brothers who grew up in this kind of secluded colony called Havenshire. They experienced a great deal of family trauma. One of them escapes while the other one stays, and he ends up becoming a cop in this town. And throughout the years, the cop and his fellow police officers, they begin to notice that there are disappearances and murders and strange things going on where people are just vanishing without a trace. And he comes to find out that this family, this evil cult family, might be behind all this.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the other brother, who escaped, gets a prophecy. He's a sensitive, so he's got the ability to hear and speak to ghosts, and he's given a prophecy that Havenshire, his hometown, is where the place where the world ends. That if he doesn't go back and try to stop it, Cthulhu and then all these horrible old gods going to come to Earth and they're going to destroy reality. Now, this has been described to me as a extreme horror, but like you guys said, horror is in the eye of the beholder, right?
Yeah.
When I wrote it, I was like, I don't think this is extreme. I didn't think of it as splatterpunk, or splatter horror. But yeah, somebody described it as that. I've had people also tell me that this was a really great way to integrate Irish folklore into the Lovecraftian horror and kind of create the story from that as well. The villains are called Femoria, so those who are familiar with Irish folklore know that's pretty big in their history.
Yeah. Fantastic.
That's a fantastic mix. Irish folklore and cosmic horror. I love the sound of that. I'm a massive fan of cosmic horror, and the Irish folklore. I've read a few books up on Irish folklore, and it all tends to be about the fae and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But if you're going down a different route, then yeah, that's it. Did you say this was? Sorry. When you started, did you say that this was based on Supernatural, or it was just sort of inspired by Supernatural?
I kind of found myself later after I published the book the first time. like I said, this is the second edition. I was like, because I've been asked to say, hey, how would you describe this book? And I was like, well, you got these two brothers, and I was like, okay, you know what? Kind of like Supernatural in the sense that we have these two brothers who have a very complicated family history.
Yep.
They've experienced a great deal of family trauma, as a result. And they kind of have to come together and resolve that trauma in order to kind of combat this horrible evil. And I like to say that the story, really the center of it, is about recognizing and recovering from trauma. And so there.
Yeah.
That's
excellent. So is this you say this is a reissue? You've reissued it. This has been out before.
Yeah. So I actually published this originally back in October of last year, and it was very well received. But then I was like, I feel like there's something I can tweak or something, and I had a very good friend named Brian Hershey. He's a copy editor. He picked it up and he's like, man, we could do so much with this. We just need to make a couple of changes. And I mean, as you guys know from, writing, if you change too much, you have to put out a second edition.
Yeah.
And so it went from being nearly a 500-page novel down to 401. And I broke up these like 15 large chapters down to like 41 smaller edible pieces. And then I also, just for fun, decided to add a new epilogue to the second edition. So the people who get the first edition are going to have a wonderful story, but the second edition is going to be much more polished. And just for fun, I put a bookend because it starts off heavy and hot. It's bloody, gory, fun. And I decided, you know what? I think I need to finish it in the same way. So I have these two scenes that kind of bookend the whole story.
Zach, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Sorry, go on.
I'm just going to say I'm really looking forward to this one. But on a side note, does this mean that you would recommend watching the series Supernatural? As a fellow fan of Supernatural, and again, I likened the relationship between the two brothers. Yeah.
Really. Supernatural is a fun romp, but I feel like this is actually more extreme. Like this is a little more intense than like Supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Supernatural was sometimes played for laughs, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's even, I think, a musical episode, which I was like, bleh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although there was a musical episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well, which was excellent.
Yeah. And again, like this story is kind of like a mix of all my, childhood personal trauma, the trauma that I experienced, like watching others suffer and hurt during my fire and paramedic days, and I'm in recovery from all that. I've been in recovery for over 6 years now. And I just had to take that experience and kind of inject it into a story that's been living inside of me my whole life.
Yeah.
Happy days. So 500 pages. As a book nerd, how many words was that?
144,000. And then, like I said,
Jesus.
after the edit, it came down to 401 pages. The original draft took me about 4 months to write.
No way. You see, I'm one of the slowest readers in the entire world. Honest to God, it's just I reckon I would be 74 before I finished that book if I started it.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I made the second edition also, is to help with the pacing, to kind of like, 401 pages is still a pretty large book. So if you get it, like, and for me, if I get a really good book, and even if it's large, I can still breeze right through it if the pacing's good and the story's great. Yeah. I mean, I've read some of Trey Barker's stuff. Yeah.
I'm a massive fan of that. I'm a massive fan of getting lost in a book. Do you know what I mean? I short stories and novellas, although they've got the place and stuff like that, they kind of leave me a little bit cold, because I love to immerse myself into a proper full-on novel where I know the people and I know the world, and I love that. So that
And this
sounds,
is
that
actually,
sounds,
yeah, this is actually going to be the first in this series.
yeah. Are they all going to be 400 pages long? I'll never get to the end of that. I'll have to come back. Yeah, I'll have to be reincarnated and to read your books.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to work on saying more with as few words as possible. I'm gonna try to be more economic with my wording.
Where can we find your book?
Well, I just got to notice that this second edition is now currently available on Kindle. Because I actually tried to upload it and all that. The actual hardcover and paperbacks won't be available until Tuesday. So it's kind of a weird reverse promotion. And then on my author's page, I also have Kindle Novella, or Kindle Vella. These are just a series of short stories. They're actually kind of tied into this book as well. So you can catch all that on
Vella in the UK.
What's that?
No, we don't.
We don't get Vella in the UK.
Well, you know what? Hit me up. I'll send you the short stories. I'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, superb. Yeah.
Yeah, they've not sprung it out to us in the UK yet. Don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why either. Yeah.
Kindle and Amazon. This is where it's at right now.
Fantastic. Have you got any sort of like websites or anything like that you want to tell people about?
Currently not yet. Most of my works have been, like I said, I did this on a whim. I just suddenly I woke up one day and I was like, I got to tell the story. And so I'm now now that I'm getting to the point where I'm like, the book is off my chest, the story's out there. Now let's, start building the websites and all that stuff. Most of my marketing has been through, definitely through social media, book talk, things of that nature. So yeah, there's going to be a website coming soon, going to be called The Curse Bearers.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. At 500 pages, you must be able to press some weight off your chest there. That's like,
oh yeah,
that must have been holding you down. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, thanks to Brian, he helped me whittle it down. With the format and all that stuff, and it's a lot less imposing now. That's down to about a 401 page book.
Happy days.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so next up, Dan Franklin with Those Things Linger. Sorry, These Things Linger. Have we still got Dan?
Is Dan still here? He's got a message up there saying, having technical difficulties. The book sounds awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see if he's tried to come back in. You gotta love doing lives.
I know. Yeah. It sounded like it must have been him who was crackling.
I host a peer support group for people who suffer from PTSD and stuff like that. And it's always fun when you get that guy who comes on, and he's trying to tell you the hardship he's going through, but you can't hear it through static and stuff. I'm like, hey, we can meet later.
That's actually quite a good tie-in to my book. That's
oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dan Franklin was here, but he's no longer here due to technical difficulties. This is his book that he's got coming out in February. These Things Linger, and the link is down in the description. Okay, so next on to Dave.
Why did you say it like that? Dave. Yeah. Okay, my book is Crack is back to take up the slack. I brought this book out in 2018, and it was my third. Was it my third or my second novel? I can't remember. And at the time, I knew nothing about editing. I knew nothing about grammar. I knew nothing about going over it and doing spelling mistakes and stuff like that. So I actually released it without an edit. There was no edit to it. All the feedback I got from the book was that people absolutely loved the story, but a lot of people just got pulled out of it because of the because of there was typos and there was just horrible pages of text where it was like, oh my God, but so I've gone back over it, and I've got my editor, the most fantastic woman, Lisa Lee Tone. She's absolutely brilliant. So she's gone over it and she's cast their magic wizardry, witchy spells over it, and I've gone through it and I've tightened up some of the writing, and so I've re-released it with a new brand spanking new cover, and I think this cover kind of encapsulates the story a little bit better than the first one did. The first one was done by my mate. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. A guy called Simon Green, and it was a motorcycle helmet with a skeleton sort of superimposed over it. Yeah. So the story is Crack. It's a story of addiction, and it's a story of PTSD. So Zach, you'll like me Crack when it comes back. I don't know. I'm not even going there. Seriously. What it is?
It's a fucking Seuss reading here, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. It's the story is. Joe O'Hara, an average everyday person, he has a road traffic accident and he suffers from PTSD from this road traffic accident, and he has sleepless nights, and he has really vivid nightmares and stuff like that. And the only thing that can help him get any relief is crack. Okay. Only it's not the crack that you think it is. So this isn't a hashtag spoiler, because you find this out on the very first page. He becomes addicted to the noise it makes when he runs people's heads over with his car. So that's the crack, and he's got to bring the crack back. Take up the slack. Yeah. So I don't know whether I originally I marketed this as a psychological horror, but I'm kind of remarketing it as a psychological thriller / horror, because it's all about this one guy's descent into madness and the lengths he'll go to feed his addiction, and how the PTSD is building up and building all the pressure up, and it's affecting his work life, it's affecting his home life, it's affecting his actual sanity, and he doesn't know whether the things he's doing, whether he's actually doing them or whether he's dreaming them. And you know, I did quite a bit of research into PTSD when I was doing it, and hopefully, because it's a very sensitive subject, as Zach will probably know, it's a very sensitive subject, and I hope I've done it with sensitivity and understanding. But you know, that's for everybody else to sort of ask that question, if you know, to tell me whether I have or not.
You've got this available. You've got this available in audio as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got the original version. The original unedited version is available on Audible, which I'm not going to redo that for the time being, because it just costs so much to get there. Because I'm obviously self-publishing and stuff like that, so it just costs so expensive to get them narrators. If you want them done with any sort of like integrity. But yeah, so it's available on Audible, and that'll be the older version. It's going to be available on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm doing book plates for it. So if anybody from the States wants to buy a copy of the hardback or the paperback, I will do book plates for them as well. So all they need to do is just get in touch with me, and I'll sign them and send them off. So yeah, so there you go. So that's crack.
Explain to me what a book plate is.
A book plate is just like a little sticker that I get printed out here, and it's got like a little few words on it and stuff like that, and I'll sign it And it's so literally when I send it off to the States or to Australia or wherever it goes, it just goes in a normal envelope and it costs $5. And then you get the sticker and you put the sticker on the inside of your cover. So then you've basically got yourself a signed novel.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So there you go. So if anybody wants one of them, just give me a shout. This is coming out on the 10th of February. I've got it's already up there. It's been up since 2018, and it's been a very Marmite book because I never knew how to market it. But since that's been out, I've brought out the likes of Zola and the likes of The Boyfriend and stuff like that. So I've got like a better understanding of that level of marketing and where it goes. So hopefully I might get a better bit of a run on this side of it than I did on the first one.
Dave, you don't tend to stick to a single genre though, do you? I mean,
No.
You're like with horror, extreme, thrillers, writing for children.
Yeah. I go all over the place. Basically, I started off as wanting to just be a horror writer. Do you know what I mean? I thought, oh yeah, that's me, Dave McCluskey, D.E. McCluskey, horror. But you know the way you get like stories and you just bang around in your head, and the story actually picks its own genre. Yeah. Like I don't know whether anybody has read my book Zola, but it's very, very, very extreme and very splatterpunk, and it's like it's the horriblest book you'll ever read in your entire life, and it's nasty and it's vile and stuff like that. It started off as a Christmas. Sorry.
And cheesy.
And cheesy too, yeah. But it started off as a Christmas comedy book. It was going to be a gentle Christmas comedy, and then as I started writing it, it just got worse and worse and worse. And I just thought to myself, okay, just go with it, just don't hold it back. So yeah. And then I brought out my Seagulls book, and that was going to be a horror, and that turned into a children's book. So it's spins and rounds.
So how do you go from a Seagulls book to a horror?
Yeah.
No, was it the other way around? How do you go from a horror to a children's book?
It's cathartic, right? So when I'm writing a really horrible, vile book, I've got a book coming out. It's probably going to be next year called 9 Months, and it's horrible. It's vile. So I thought to myself, I've got to cleanse my brain. I've got to cleanse it. I can't take it out. I can't remove my eyes and scrub the back of them and put them back in again. So I'll have to write something nice. So then I tend to start writing like books about Father Christmas and stuff like that. And where I know that I can't actually kill the reindeer because I'd never come back from that, would I? Yeah. That would be it. McCluskey's cancelled.
I was going to say, it's funny because one of the characters in my book, her name's Lizzie Borden, famous killer. Yeah. And she is a dog. She's a Cane Corso. And the moment I say, I have this Cane Corso, she's a beautiful, lovely dog. She can also tear a man in half, whatever. But the first question somebody says is like, you don't kill the dog, do you? I'm like, no. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and edit that whole. No, kidding. Yeah, but it's like I noticed, like that was the first question. Is like, don't you kill that dog? And I was like, all right, no problem. I was like, everybody's about to get John Wick with me. They're gonna hunt me down and just put a cap in my ass.
Zach, you've actually just hit a nerve there, because in this book, in Crack, there's 3 instances. I'm going to have to put me thing. 3 instances of animal cruelty. And you know what? I never put no triggers on it the very first time I got it. And all I got was grief. Oh my God. Absolute and utter. Like, people wanted to take me out to the street and rotten tomatoes at me and stuff like that. But in my defense, and probably what you guys will probably already know when I'm teaching my granny to suck eggs here, is that if you're writing about a man's descent into madness and becomes a killer and stuff like that, 9 times out of 10, they don't just go straight out and kill a person. They, if this is like truly a descent into madness, it starts off in a thin wedge, and it usually starts off with like torturing small animals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I tried it with this. I'm not going to do it again. Tried it with this. So he kills 2 foxes and a dog.
Just when we were about to get along, McCluskey. No.
Don't kill the dog. Don't kill the dog. Look. In my defense, I'm actually a dog lover. So there you go. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've just woke him up. He's not very happy now.
Dave, I love the way you were saying there's animal cruelty in this, but you were laughing as you said it.
Yeah.
Well, some of you might have started off with animals. I don't know, but
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't. I personally went straight into. No, I didn't go into it. But yeah,
so it's interesting because one of the questions that I had read on Facebook was that somebody was talking about how people would approach them after reading their story and say, "You're sick," but not in the hey, this is kind of a fun horror film. They were like, saying, "Hey, you have a problem," and he's like, "Should I be concerned?" And my reply was like, I think horror writers are actually more empathetic than your average person, because we have to create these scenarios where we cause harm to imaginary people, but they are a part of us, right? And you're injecting some of, something into them to bring them to life, and then you kill them or hurt them or scare them or whatever. And I said, you know what? I think if anything, I feel for my characters, and I think that makes me more compassionate and more empathetic than a serial killer. Because if I wrote about a character who got his head chopped off after being tortured for hours or whatever, and I didn't feel anything about that, I would think that might actually say something about my mental state.
Well, I always think when people come, sorry,
Yeah,
Wesley,
go ahead.
You go first. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's Wes Craven who said horror is cathartic.
Yeah.
So, whether it's thriller like I write, horror-esque, horror adjacent, or horror like you guys write, it's cathartic. So a lot of people can walk away from it being like, oh, we went through something with these characters now that sometimes we're not going to go through in life, and sometimes, unfortunately, we are. Some of us.
Yeah.
It's
like porn. You go in, you get your hit, you get off, everyone's happy. With an emphasis on the getting
except
off.
on that rare occasion when it stays with you for days and days and days.
So what I was going to say is that coming back to what Zach was saying just a second ago, was when people come up to you and say that, oh, you must be sick in the head, if you're coming up with all these scenarios. But that I flip that round. I want to flip that round on the person who says that, because if that person can't separate the art from the artist, then there's something wrong with their brain synapses. They're not functioning correctly. Because do you think that Anthony Hopkins actually killed and ate all them people? Because he didn't. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, he was playing a role, and
fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Exactly. Yeah, you know what I mean? So like, he doesn't even like Chianti. He said that's so. That's. So it's
Dave, I get what you're saying. I get
the art from the artist. Then you've got something missing in your brain. Your brain isn't snapping properly.
No, I have difficulty separating the art from the artist, because you look at somebody like Lewis Carroll, and everybody goes on about how great the Alice in Wonderland story is, but Lewis Carroll was a nonce. Sort of like, little girls. One of his hobbies was photographing naked prepubescent girls, which is like the definition of noncy behaviour. And it's sort of like kind of difficult for me to look at Alice in Wonderland and think that's going to be worth reading, or I'll let my kids read that, because sort of like, here's a book a nonce wrote, little boy. Yeah, do you want to read it?
Yeah. But I understand where you're coming from there, Ash. But it's few and far between. Like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like there's Stephen King or James Herbert didn't go around doing the things that they were taught that they were writing about.
Absolutely, yeah, this is true.
Yeah, it's so I got because of my book, The Boyfriend. About 3 months ago, someone on one of my reviews called me a paedophile. Said this guy must be a paedophile. He must have paedophilic rape fantasies, and I hope he doesn't hang around with teenagers. Now, part of my professional job is I go to schools and I talk to the kids to like primary school age about using their imaginations. So, I'm CRB tested, and I've got clearance and stuff like that. And you think to yourself, just one odd, stupid person saying one little odd, stupid comment in a review, can that because that one person couldn't separate the art from the artist. That I could have got sacked. Do you know what I mean? That's my annoyance.
Well, isn't that just a cop-out review, though? That's not really a review. It's just it's one thing they pointed at. It's not a review. It's something that inflamed them for whatever issue it was, and that was what they wanted to attack you with. And that's easy. Yeah. That's easy to do.
Yeah, because they couldn't.
No thought.
Yeah, because they couldn't comprehend what the story's about and the fact that it is a fiction. They can't comprehend that. So they must think that I've got bodies in the garage. And, obviously everybody knows that they're in my loft. So it's like, you can go and look in the garage all they want.
My novel's about, literally a girl getting tortured in a room. And, when I set out to write it, it was definitely to be not extreme in an extreme splatterpunk way, but in a sense where when you're reading it, I want you to be uncomfortable, and by the end, I want you to be very mad and also walk away with a little bit of catharsis. That's my point.
You want them to be moved.
Yes.
Don't you? That's you want them to be moved by what you're writing, but you don't want them to be thinking like that it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always wanted the violence in my book though to have a point. Like there's no point in the book where the violence is just there for it to be there. It's there for a reason. Yeah. Anytime,
and that's always the best style of writing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can I ask a question then? So in America right now, there's a lot of this like trigger warning talk. It's like, hey, we got to put trigger warnings on everything, especially if it's controversial in any way. And I even did it with my book just because with my background and I understand, like I said, I work with people who have mental illness. What is your guys' take about this culture where we're like slapping that label on everything? Is it too much, or is it like, this is the culture now. This is our world now, right?
I hate it. I hate it. I see it as a spoiler. However, I've got a series of books which I call my Extreme series. So it's D.E. McCluskey's Extreme series of books. Now, the fact that I've put Extreme series, my belief is that is the trigger warning. Yeah. If you know that this book is extreme or this book is splatterpunk, then that is all that you need. Now, if you read a splatterpunk book, because it's just happened to me actually. I've just had a girl review Zola, and she gave it a 1 star, and she said this book was fantastically written, and it's going to stay with me, and it really made me want to vomit, and it made me want to hurl, and for that reason, I'm only going to give it 1 star. So I've got no problem with that. You know what I mean? I was just made up that the fact that she actually took the time to give a review. But a load of people took umbrage with it because of the fact that, so everyone was saying, well, it did what the book set out to do. It made you uncomfortable. It's an extreme book. And she was like, well, it didn't have a trigger warning that there was child sex abuse in it. And I said, and my fight is that it's an extreme book. I'm not going to tell you what the triggers are, otherwise it's going to ruin the book. Now, on this crack now, because I'm marketing it as a horror and a thriller, I've put trigger warnings on it. I've bowed to the pressure because of a lot of the negativity I got for the boyfriend was of the fact that like the boyfriend's got like 20 pages of this very, very intense and strong sexual attack. But it's so graphic and it's so vile. And that was the negative reviews that I got, is that like I didn't put a trigger warning on it to let people know that this was going to be so bad. And because it's sold in the psychological thriller market, I kind of learned from that. So I just thought that's what I'm going to do. So for me, horrors, me extremes, no, just says extreme and then that's it. But for the likes of like thrillers or mainstream horrors, then it is what it is, isn't it? You know what I mean? You got to go with the flow. What's
You're always going to get that one reader that's not going to read the trigger warnings anyway, regardless of where you put them in the book. Yeah. I mean, look at Judith Sunnet. She put hers in the middle of the book just before it got really bad in, what was it called now?
Was it No One Rides to Die?
Oh. My thing about trigger warnings is, what is a trigger warning? It's all different to everybody else. Everybody has a different trigger warning. You know, so what you can't put, what is a trigger warning to an individual? No author can navigate that. Nobody knows. You know, if you're triggered by, I don't know, a pencil. You know, for some reason something happened to you. You got stabbed with a pencil, and someone uses a pencil, and that's a trigger warning. And someone gives you a 1-star because it's impossible. It's impossible.
You're 100% right. Yeah, you can't cover them.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. One of the things that upsets me when I'm reading is if anything happens, it's like Zach was saying before, if anything happens to a dog or an animal in any way, in that case, I get upset. If somebody says a dog's going to get injured in this, I won't look at it. I won't read it. But if I'd known that a dog got killed at the start of John Wick, I would never have watched it. And missed out on a really fun film, actually. It was a hell of a lot of fun. And I think sometimes these trigger warnings can actually hamper people's entertainment because we're looking, this sort of thing's going to happen in it, and I don't like that.
So, like the trigger warning I put in my book, I did mention is like, hey, there is, this book is about, suffering and pain and healing. And, and I asked, my readers just to take care of your mental health. And I left it at that. I didn't want to go into the, specifics because like you said, I mean, there are people out there who would never have seen John Wick if they would have known the dog would have died in the beginning. Spoiler alert. Oh, wait, that's supposed to come before, right? Whatever. Anyhow.
Yeah, but how sweet that revenge is for that little puppy.
Yeah. I think it's like, and I get your guys' point. It's like if I was to put, hey, this is about family trauma and blah, 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 and there's going to be horrible violence and this, I'm going to exclude a lot of people. And it's funny because there are a lot of people who's like, oh, I love horror. I just can't handle the rough stuff. And then, and to them, they're just telling me what their trigger warning is. Let's keep it mind.
Yeah.
See, I had my book came out a couple of days ago, Toxic Maternal. And in the beginning of that, I've put a trigger warning, just listing a few things on there of what I think people are going to get triggered with. And one of the reviews that has come back said that they understand why I've put trigger warnings in there, but it was a bit of a spoiler.
Mm-hmm. It can do it. It can spoil because it is a spoiler. If you think about it, it's a spoiler because if you're going to say, if you're triggered by people who die underneath beds, then there's someone who dies underneath the bed. So then the person who comes up to it and they come up to the bit where the woman's under the bed or the man's under the bed, and the person thinks you're going to die now. Do you know what I mean? Because you've put the trigger warning of that.
It's impossible. It's an impossible. Everybody has a trigger warning. Everybody has a trigger. Something bothers somebody.
Yeah.
I just wish nobody had ever thought of the fucking term trigger warnings. Yeah.
See, there's a comment in the chat from Rhonda Lynn Bobbitt. First of all, she put Zola was extreme, but I loved it.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Then she's put, I personally never read trigger warnings. Trigger warnings can give the plot away, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm of agreement with that. Yeah. But you know, I do see it on the flip side as well. Like, you know, if there's a sexual attack and someone has suffered a sexual attack in their life, then, you know, then they might, you know, that book might bring back, Zach will know more about this, like PTSD feelings, or or take them, zone them back out into that place. I always think my personal take on it is, if you're reading horror, then you're there to be horrified. Yeah.
So with that in mind, can you guys think of one book off the top of your head that was like so like ick? You know, that you just like couldn't even finish it. Like you had to like either power through it and just like do whatever, or you just like couldn't even finish it because it affected you on that personal level. You know what I'm saying? Like there's extreme horror, which we go into splatterpunk and we expect heads to be smashed in. We expect gore, blood, and guts and blah, blah, blah. But has anybody ever come across a book where you're like reading something and you're like, oh, this is rough? And I'll go first. I'm currently reading The Handyman Method, and it is ick for me. You know, like it's a great story. It's a great story, but it is, for me, it's a tough read.
Yeah. Who's it by?
Oh gosh, I was afraid you were going to ask me that question. I was like, great. Hold on, I got it. 3, 2. Oh no, just kidding. So The Handyman Method by Nick Cutter.
Okay.
And I love Nick Cutter's work, but he did a really good job of describing despairing insanity.
Okay.
Right. And I kind of got the same feeling with the new remake of Stephen King's Pet Sematary, the film. That was a hard film to watch for me. And I loved the first original one that came out in the 80s. This new one, man, that hit me hard.
Was it the remake, or was it the story that they brought out about the soldier? Because it was a film.
The new Pet Sematary, the remake. The
remake, right? Okay. Yeah. I hated it. I
thought you did? It was rubbish. Yeah. You know, I got that. Yeah. I liked it, but it was like it did.
I've got no problem with it. You know one man's medicine's another man's Coca-Cola, isn't it? You know what I mean? So that's my poison. What am I on about?
Zach, to go back to your question, one of the stories that I didn't manage to finish it, but it stayed with me, and it was probably 20 years ago when I first read it, but it still stays with me. It was a Richard Lehman story in his book of short stories, which was something like, I think, Dreadful Tales or Awful Tale. And it's a story about a woman who's just become a widow. And to try and cheer herself up and take herself out of things, she decides to go to the theatre wearing a fur coat that her husband had bought her. And again, the whole animal thing with me, fur coats, nasty. But as she's going out of there, she gets chased by some people. And there's this whole analogy going on about how the animals were chased to take the fur off, and these people are chasing her to take the fur coat off her. And yeah, it was so well done and so powerful, and had me empathizing with this woman who's wearing a fur coat and thinking, oh, you poor bitch, that's just nasty what's happening to you. Yeah.
I hate you, but I feel terrible.
Yeah. As I say, 20 years, maybe more since I first read it. And still, I don't need to go back to it because every word's sort of like burnt into my brain.
Yeah.
Lehman is good like that, though, isn't he?
When he's good, he's really good, yeah.
Yeah. Probably the only book I can only ever remember not finishing 2 books. One of them was 50 Shades of Grey. Now, don't judge me for starting to read 50 Shades of Grey.
Too late.
It was right before. the sex book that I was telling you about before, well, that's not a sex book, it's a drama really, but there's a lot of sex in it. But I read 50 Shades of Grey to kind of get some ideas, and I really wish I hadn't, because it was atrocious, and it was just. I mean, it actually must have been like reading the very first draft or the very first cut of my book, Crack, because there was whoever edited that, whoever actually said, right, give me that book, look, and there you go, I'll edit it for you, and handed it back to it and said, that's done. Just, it's like the Emperor's New Clothes, do you know what I mean? They hadn't done any work on it. So there's that one. But then I remember going into the fourth book in the Anne Rice Vampire series. Can't remember what the fourth book was. The first one's Interview, and they've got the Vampire Lestat.
Body Thief.
Body Thief, yeah.
Body Thief.
It's a Body Thief. And it just, there was nothing about it that like just that disgusted me or anything. That might be the one that disgusted me. It just bored me to death. It just bored me to tears, and I stopped there. Because is that the one where it starts going into the original two vampires, the mother and the father, and they're almost like marble. And then
it was either that or the Vampire Armand where that happens. Yeah, I can't remember.
It might have been
one.
Armand. Yeah. Oh God, it was a snooze fest for me. But the first three were great. Yeah. But no, other than that, I've got no triggers. I've never ever found something that is too extreme or too hurting or anything like that, unless they mention Liverpool FC in the book, and then I'll just throw it away then.
I think the only book that's ever bothered me, and I never finished it, but I did recently pick it back up, and it wasn't that it bothered me per se, because I never finished it. Like I said, was John Saul's Black Lightning. I think in the beginning of that, it's about a serial killer, and he's either skinning someone or opening someone up, and it was pretty detailed. And I remember getting really ill. But what I didn't realize was I actually had food poisoning. And I was like, man, I don't usually get bothered too much. So, but that one, I literally had food poisoning that night. And so I never picked that one back up because of that reason. But I have had one movie that I will not watch again. And that's called Martyrs. If anybody's seen that one, it's a French film. That one will take you to the limit, in my opinion. Yeah. It will push you. Oh man.
I was like that with that Salo. Is it Salo? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of the limit for me. I mean, it's not something I would ever turn off.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they were going into they had the different circles, and when they hit the circle of shit.
Yeah.
I thought,
yeah.
This is getting interesting now.
Yeah. Now, Martyrs is another level of depravity that I have thought about it a couple times, going back and rewatching it, and I look at I have it downstairs in my movie room, and I'm looking at it like I can't do it. I can't do it.
Can't go. Yeah. Yeah.
It was remade too. And a buddy of mine said he saw it, and he's like, "Yeah, it's not as good." And I was like, "That's okay, because I don't want to watch it again."
I can't do sequels or remakes or anything like that. I just think just all of them are just awful, except The Thing. That's probably the only remake I think that I can go with.
Do you want me to sort of like be a heretic now and say that I really enjoyed the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street?
Oh no, actually, okay, I'm with you.
Really?
Like, they talked so much trash on the remake, but like as a standalone film,
I think they did one thing wrong with the remake, and it was leading that way, and it didn't go that way, and that's what was like. Maybe the kids were lying, giving Freddy an actual revenge. I think that would have been a better way to go with that, because instead of actually making Freddy what he is, just do the little bit of a twist, and I think that would have made that movie better. But I still don't.
I think I've probably gone down that film in the wrong way because I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that's one of the scariest films back in the day that I've ever watched. So I think I went down. I think I opened this film thinking I'm going to hate this. I'm going to hate it on purpose. So I actually purposely hated it. So maybe I need to give it another go and have another look at it. I don't know.
They also do a really cool thing in that film with the mini nightmares, where like, you know, Freddy's there and Tony's there. That part is incredibly clever. So to play devil's advocate on some of the bad choices they made, but some of the good choices they made, that is the one aspect of that film that I really, really enjoy.
I think it's hilarious.
I've got another one.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Ash, go on. You go first.
No, I was just going to say, right, I don't feel so bad about really being a fan of that film now because,
Well, I've got another one that some of you might just turn off. Just see it, Dave. You're cancelled. But I love the Rob Zombie Halloween.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The first one.
Absolutely, the first one. Yeah. Second one's just nuts. But and this is where people can't understand me. I can't stand the original Halloween film. And people always go, "What? You're a horror author and you don't like that?" And I hate it. I think it's crap. I think it's rubbish. It's awful. But there you go.
I actually think if Rob Zombie took Halloween off, that took the Michael Myers character out of there and placed somebody different, everybody would look at that film different because it's actually a very good film. Yeah. But having the Halloween title and the characters in there is what really that film starting out is like a smack in the face, you know, because you're expecting to go into a Halloween film and no, you're getting hit with a Rob Zombie film right away, you know. But I mean that's his style.
So I wanted to point out earlier when we were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, if I can just go back to that for a second, one of the things that made the 80s version, by the way, Freddy has fucked me for life. All right, I still have Nightmare on Elm Street dreams. I'm 47 years old, but one of the great things about that is that when Nightmare on Elm Street came out, there was a controversy that kept them from actually saying that Freddy Krueger was a pedophile. Mm. And because there was a controversy, and I don't know if you guys know about this, and if you have, just tell me shut up. But there was a controversy with the church where a priest was, got caught, messing with a kid. So they were like, hey, we can't talk about this. It's the topic is too hot. And so this is back in the 80s where I guess everybody thinks like cancel culture is new. Nah, man, we've been doing it for years. They just now it's like on social media. But
sorry, Zach.
So they told Wes Craven, it's like, no, you can't tell people he's a pedophile. So they did a better job by kind of like making it tongue in cheek and like just hinting at it. And that actually made him creepier and
a bit more scarier.
Yeah.
Isn't it actually brought up though in one of the deleted scenes? I think there's a deleted scene. There's an added scene where Nancy's mom is telling her about Freddy, and I don't quote me on it, but I think it's like mentioned that he was like a pedophile and a child killer.
Yeah, they talk about being a child killer, but they don't.
But I think like in the deleted scene, I think that scene is extended just a little bit. I'm sure it's online, so somewhere you could look it up. And I could be wrong. So like I said, don't quote me on it. It could just be how I'm remembering it, you know. But I know there is a deleted scene.
Coming back to all these books that we're bringing out. That's why we're here. Ash, who did you cover?
Coming back to all these books, I'm in a room with 4 people who love horror as much as me, so a chance to talk to you guys about anything related to horror is fucking awesome. The cover, that was my good friend Colin Davis. He's done all my covers so far. He's done the internal illustrations as well. And he's brilliant. Love him. He's the one that's helped me format.
So he's like a long-term collaborator that you've done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've been friends for probably a decade now. But yeah,
Oh, fantastic.
he helped me whilst I was going through my PhD, and I've helped him go through his masters at the moment. So yeah,
Brilliant. Wesley, who's done yours?
Christian Ventolin.
Okay, that's a name I'm not familiar with.
I'm published through Wicked House Publishing, and he is
that Patrick Ruman.
Yes, he is. He works a lot with them, so he's done a lot of Wicked House covers. Fantastic.
Oh, no, do you know what? I do know him. I do know the guy. Yeah, because he's got a boss little website, hasn't he? Because
Yes.
Patrick gave me the link to the website where you can go in and buy the pre-made covers or asking for the
Yes,
Yeah.
that's who did mine. Yep.
Okay, that's a boss little cover. And
Thank
Zach,
you.
who did yours?
I actually did mine.
That's
now,
a great. Did you
well-
photograph? It's like
So, okay. And I say that like I did mine only by 10%. So what I did is I went on to just Google and I said, hey, I want something that's public domain, and just pulled up photos of public domain photos, stuff that you can use. There's no copyright, free for everybody. So I found this photo and it was in black and white originally. And I was like, and so I went in and I changed the colors and I deepened the blacks and, did a couple other little things. And this was the outcome. Now,
it's striking, like, isn't it?
yeah. And then the interior book, when you open it up, the first cover page actually shows the Forgotten Church, which is this place where people are summoning these cosmic horrors. And as I know, there's a lot of controversy about AI, but I used some of the AI for concept character ideas, for creating hey, I want to kind of see how this works out. And some of this stuff came out beautifully. And I'm like, you know what? I'll give credit to the people who created the website or the app or whatever. But, I went ahead and put it in my book, because it looks cool.
Yeah.
Now, I would never write a book.
Yeah. That goes down a different route, that doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like if anything like making a movie or writing a book using AI. Man, it's just like that's
Soulless, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I'll say up front, I will give credit where credit's due, anytime. But when you talk to me about like, oh, I had this computer make a movie for me, I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it bugs me because like supposedly one of the best horror novels, they're talking about one of the biggest rising horror novels out there was written by AI. And that kind of on some level,
Yeah, it's not right. I don't think it's right. This is my own personal opinion on it. I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
Well, is it really stealing? Because someone's already
done it, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
Yeah.
It's just copying whatever someone else already wrote and putting in.
Yeah, I don't
make a book, a new word, to make new words.
Yeah.
New
It's
sentences. No, it's not.
My book, I'm just going to do it that way because it's there. My book, the artwork is done by this a brand spanking new fella who I've just found online. Well, when I say he's a new fella, I think he's been around for a few years. Like, a guy called Paul Cave, and he's new to the horror market, and he's selling some pre-made covers. But because I had what I wanted in my head. And it didn't, and it wouldn't have fitted with any of the pre-covers. He actually came up with this one for me, and I just think it encapsulates everything that I wanted out of the book. So he's done a sterling job. So a guy called Paul Cave. So if you're listening, Paul, there's your credit. So that's 10% off me next cover. Yeah.
Okay, so there was a few people that couldn't make it today, so I'm just going to show their covers. They are in the description below. 2 seconds. And a couple of others that I did find as well that are going to be released in February.
I do need to say that Dan's cover was excellent as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Westley, someone said in the comments that they can't wait to read your book.
Awesome. Thank you.
Joshua
I can't wait for you to read it.
And Dave can suck it.
Tell him I'll do anything for a few bob. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know,
to promote a book.
I may know that person who just said he can't read.
Yeah, I think I know him as well. Yeah, I know of him. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Ah, Wesley, your mom showed up. That's great.
Trust me, she definitely didn't show up.
Okay, so Jay Boote has got a book coming out. It's a Dark Web of Monsters.
Isn't that the third part? Isn't there? There's two parts before that, isn't there?
Yeah, this is book 4, and this came out today.
Yeah.
And next we've got Elton Skelter, Next of Kin, which comes out on the 14th of February.
I love that name, Elton Skelter. It's like something right out the Beatles' White Album, isn't it?
It's a bit like what's that ride? Helter Skelter.
Helter Skelter.
Next up is Dan Shrader. His book comes out on the 29th of February, Soulless, Lonesome.
I've just read that as well, and it's excellent.
You're writing a blurb for it, aren't you, Dave?
Yeah, I've literally finished it about an hour ago.
What do you think?
Yeah. Crap. No, it's brilliant. No, it's fabulous. It's blown me away, to be fair. Yeah.
Brilliant. Dan's not long just published his first book, so this will be his second. Okay, and then we've got Chuck Nasty's Going to Hell, Fresh Kills, Volume 1, and that comes out on the 5th of February.
And I've just been given that one as well. Chuck's just sent me that one too. Was Chuck supposed to be on tonight?
He was, yeah, but he's got daddy.
Yeah, he has issues with his. Yeah, he has. He's a single parent, isn't he?
Yeah. So he wasn't able to make it tonight. Okay, guys. Well, thank you really much. Thank you very much for being on the show. It's been wonderful having you all here. So thank you for joining us on Unveiling Nightmares. So we're going to dive deeper into the darkness on nightmaredownloads.com for a collection of horror ebooks. So that website is now live for you to grab some short stories. So stay tuned, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Again
Take
soon.
it easy, guys.
Bye.
See you soon.
See ya.
Bye.